Psalm 57, From Cave to Concert Hall, The Psychology of Singing Your Way Out of Darkness. What if the most powerful weapon against despair isn't fighting your way out, but singing your way out? Right now, someone is trapped in what feels like a cave surrounded by darkness, feeling hunted, convinced that their situation is hopeless. They've tried logic, they've tried willpower, they've tried everything except the one thing that neuroscience proves can literally rewire the brain for hope and resilience. 3,000 years ago, a man hiding in a cave discovered something that modern researchers are just beginning to understand. Music and praise don't just express emotions, they actually create them. King David wrote Psalm 57 while literally hiding in a cave, surrounded by enemies who wanted to kill him. Yet somehow this psalm transforms from desperate pleading into explosive celebration. Scientists have now discovered that singing activates the vagus nerve, releases endorphins, and creates new neural pathways associated with joy and confidence. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover why David's cave became a recording studio, how worship can function as psychological warfare against despair, and most importantly, how the simple act of declaring victory before you see it can literally change your brain chemistry and your life trajectory. Welcome to another episode of Learning English Through Bible, where we discover that the most advanced psychological techniques and sophisticated English language patterns are often hidden in ancient songs. Today we're exploring Psalm 57, and here's what makes this absolutely incredible for English learners. David takes us on a complete emotional journey from desperation to triumph, using some of the most beautiful metaphorical language ever written. This psalm contains imagery, repetition, and sentence structures that demonstrate exactly how native speakers use English to transform their mental and emotional state through words. If you want to understand how English speakers use language not just to describe reality, but to actually change reality, you've discovered a masterpiece. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. You're about to learn how biblical poetry can teach you advanced English patterns that will make your communication more powerful, more persuasive, and more emotionally resonant than you ever thought possible. The setting for Psalm 57 is David hiding in the cave of Adullam, running for his life from King Saul. But this isn't just any cave. This becomes the headquarters for David's mighty men, the place where broken, desperate people gather around David and eventually become legendary warriors. The Hebrew title of this psalm literally means, "Do not destroy," suggesting that David is asking God not to let his enemies destroy him. But here's what's fascinating. By the end of this psalm, the tone has completely shifted from "don't let them destroy me" to "I'm going to wake up the dawn with praise." This transformation happens entirely through the process of worship, and it demonstrates something crucial about the relationship between what we say and what we experience. David begins with urgent pleading, "Have mercy on me. My God, have mercy on me. For in you I take refuge." The repetition of "have mercy on me" immediately establishes desperation. When people repeat the same request twice, it indicates they're not sure they're being heard the first time. The phrase "take refuge" is military language. It means to find shelter from attack, to hide in a fortified place. But notice that David's refuge isn't the physical cave, it's spiritual protection. This teaches English learners about using metaphorical language to express abstract concepts like trust and spiritual security. The imagery becomes even more powerful. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed. The metaphor of divine wings creates the image of a mother bird protecting her chicks from predators or storms. Shadow of your wings suggests not just protection, but intimate closeness, being gathered under loving care. Until the disaster has passed shows David's faith that his current crisis is temporary. Disasters come, but they also go. This demonstrates advanced English vocabulary for expressing temporary versus permanent situations, and how hope is built into the grammar of faith. David then makes a crucial declaration. I cry out to God Most High, to God who vindicates me. The title God Most High is significant. When you're in a low place like a cave, you call on the highest authority available. Vindicates is sophisticated legal vocabulary meaning to clear someone of blame, to prove them right, to publicly demonstrate their innocence. David isn't just asking for rescue, he's asking for his reputation to be restored, for justice to be clearly visible to everyone watching his situation. The confidence builds. He sends from heaven and saves me. Rebuking those who hotly pursue me, God sends forth his love and his faithfulness. The phrase sends from heaven creates an image of divine intervention coming from the ultimate source of power. Hotly pursue means passionate, relentless hunting, like predators who won't give up the chase. The combination of love and faithfulness represents God's character, not just power to save, but reliable commitment to continue caring. This teaches English learners how to express different types of protection and ongoing support. Then David describes his enemies with vivid imagery. I am in the midst of lions. I am forced to dwell among ravenous beasts, people whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. This metaphor is brilliant. David's human enemies are described as wild animals, but then the metaphor shifts to show that their real weapons are words. Teeth or spears and arrows suggest that their speech is designed to wound from a distance. Tongues or sharp swords implies that their words are crafted to cut and kill. This demonstrates advanced English technique of mixing metaphors to create layered meaning about psychological warfare. In the middle of describing his terrible situation, David suddenly shifts to praise. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. This is psychologically remarkable. David interrupts his own complaint to worship. The word exalted means to be lifted up, elevated, honored publicly. Above the heavens suggests the highest possible position. Let your glory be over all the earth is a prayer for God's reputation to be visible everywhere. This teaches English learners how to use imperatives for making grand requests and how to express desires for universal recognition. David returns to describing his enemies' tactics. They spread a net for my feet, I was bowed down in distress. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into it themselves. The imagery of nets and pits shows how his enemies are using trap-based warfare trying to catch him when he's not expecting it. Bowed down in distress means bent over with worry, physically affected by psychological pressure. But then comes the reversal. They have fallen into it themselves. This demonstrates the principle of poetic justice, evil schemes backfiring on those who create them. The verb tenses show completed action. This reversal has already happened. Now the psalm explodes into celebration. My heart, O God, is steadfast. My heart is steadfast. My heart is steadfast. I will sing and make music. The repetition of my heart is steadfast shows absolute determination and emotional stability. Steadfast means firm, unmovable, reliable, the opposite of the anxiety and fear David was experiencing earlier. I will sing and make music represents David's decision to move from complaint to celebration, from focusing on problems to actively creating joy through artistic expression. The famous call to worship follows awake, my soul. Awake, harp and lyre. I will awaken the dawn. This is some of the most energetic language in the entire Bible. Awake. My soul is David talking to himself, commanding his own spirit to become alert and active. Awake, harp and lyre personifies musical instruments as if they too need to be roused from sleep. I will awaken the dawn is incredibly bold. David is saying he'll start praising so early and so loudly that he'll wake up the sunrise itself. This teaches advanced English learners about imperative mood for self-motivation and how to personify objects for dramatic effect. David's commitment becomes global. I will praise you, Lord, among the nations. I will sing of you among the peoples. The scope expands from personal worship in a cave to public testimony before entire nations. Among the nations and among the peoples shows David's intention to make his praise international, multicultural, universally known. This demonstrates English vocabulary for expressing expansion from private to public, from local to global impact. The psalm reaches its climax with cosmic imagery. For great is your love, reaching to the heavens, your faithfulness reaching to the skies. The metaphor of love and faithfulness having physical dimensions that reach to the sky creates an image of divine character that fills all space. This isn't just saying God's love is big, it's saying God's love has measurable dimensions that extend to the limits of the visible universe. This teaches English learners advanced techniques for expressing abstract qualities using concrete spatial language. The psalm concludes exactly where it began, but at a completely different emotional level. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. This repetition creates what English teachers call a frame. The same words bookend the psalm, but their meaning has been transformed by everything that happened in between. When David first said these words, they might have been desperate requests. Now they're confident declarations, victory songs, statements of absolute certainty. What makes Psalm 57 psychologically fascinating is how David uses worship as therapy. Modern neuroscience confirms that music and singing release endorphins, reduce cortisol, and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's relaxation response. But David goes beyond just singing. He commands his own soul to wake up. He personifies his instruments. He declares his intention to wake up the dawn. This is aggressive, intentional joy creation in the face of objective danger. The language progression in this psalm teaches crucial lessons about English communication. David starts with basic requests, have mercy, moves to descriptive imagery, lions, swords, shifts to declarations of confidence, my heart is steadfast, and culminates in cosmic poetry, love reaching to the heavens. This shows English learners how to use vocabulary and sentence structures to build emotional momentum and transform mental states through words. The metaphors David uses demonstrate sophisticated English techniques for making abstract concepts concrete. Trust becomes taking refuge in the shadow of wings. Divine intervention becomes something sent from heaven. Human enemies become ravenous beasts with teeth like spears. Character qualities become measurable dimensions, reaching to the skies. These techniques make communication more vivid, memorable, and emotionally impactful. David's transformation from victim to victor happens entirely through his use of language. He doesn't wait for his circumstances to change, he changes his focus, his vocabulary, his mental imagery, and his declarations. This demonstrates the power of words not just to describe reality, but to actually alter our experience of reality. When David starts commanding his soul to awaken and declaring his intention to awaken the dawn, he's using language as a tool for psychological transformation. The repetition of "Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, let your glory be over all the earth" serves multiple purposes. First, it creates structural unity. The psalm has a clear beginning and end. Second, it demonstrates that David's ultimate concern isn't his personal safety, but God's reputation. Third, it shows that true worship focuses on the character and glory of the one being worshipped, not on the benefits the worshiper receives. For English learners, Psalm 57 demonstrates advanced techniques for emotional communication, how to use repetition for emphasis, how to build intensity through escalating imagery, how to shift from negative to positive vocabulary, and how to use imperatives for some. These skills are crucial for anyone who wants to use English not just to communicate information, but to influence emotions and inspire action. The practical applications of David's approach are profound. When facing overwhelming challenges, instead of focusing entirely on the problems, David shows us how to deliberately shift our language toward praise, gratitude, and confident declarations about ultimate outcomes. This isn't denial of reality. David acknowledges he's surrounded by lions and trapped by enemies, but he refuses to let current reality determine his emotional state or limit his vision of what's possible. The progression from cave to concert hall that we see in Psalm 57 represents one of the most powerful psychological principles ever documented, the idea that worship can function as warfare against despair, that praise can be a weapon against depression, and that declaring victory before seeing it can actually influence the outcome of our battles. David's cave becomes a recording studio not because his circumstances changed, but because his response to those circumstances transformed both his internal experience and his external reality. Modern research on neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways, confirms what David discovered in that cave. Repeated thoughts and declarations literally rewire our brains. When David repeatedly declared God's greatness, his love reaching to the heavens, and his own determination to sing and make music, he was creating new neural pathways associated with hope, joy, and confidence. The cave that started as a place of hiding became a place of transformation, and the man who entered in desperation emerged as a worship leader whose songs would inspire millions for thousands of years.